All right, what's up, man?
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for willing to do this.
Dude, of course. Oh my God. I saw your email and I was like, oh, how cool. I didn't even know you were doing this kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Um, but yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm going to start from the beginning. I know that you're originally from New Orleans and you went to New York first before LA.
Yeah, yeah. Funny enough, I'm actually moving back to New Orleans pretty soon, but yeah, I grew up in New Orleans. Ended up going to New York for theater, college. Voiceover has always been the end goal, but I figured kind of learning the roots of stuff and getting better at theater acting, it all kind of ties back into each other. So I thought that would help improve voiceover. Went over there, had a great time, and the pandemic hit. So I moved out to LA. Wasn't really how I intended on doing it, but here we are.
What was any kind of first professional VO entertain or industry job that you got when you were in LA then?
In LA, I think it was doing Walla for Cells at Work
Okay.
with Bang Zoom, actually. Um, well, maybe that's not true. Maybe I think the first professional thing, it was kind of like low key, but I think it was like a um some kind of commercial for an app or something. Some kind of like tech app campaign thing I did an advertisement for. Um Not really as glamorous as Fire Emblem Heroes or Cells at Work, but I think that was the first one, yeah.
Yeah. So is there a special story of how you became involved with working with Bang Zoom?
Um yeah, a little bit. When I started out voiceover in like 2012, I was just kind of doing it for fun, doing it with friends I'd make online, doing fan dubs and things like that, uh, doing it just because why not? It wasn't until like 2013 I was trying to improve at it where I started being like, oh, I should, seek out lessons or something. And the person I sought out lessons from was Lucian Dodge
Mhm.
back in 2013. And he became my mentor since then. When I came out to LA, he basically just told me to email him. So I sent an email in, and a few follow-ups later, a few auditions later, I started working with them. You know, so Lucian was kind of like the catalyst to the whole thing, but yeah, it was just an email, and man, a lot of it is just sending out cold emails and praying they do well on Wordle that morning and feel good enough to reply back to you for whatever reason.
All right.
Sometimes you don't hear back for months on end, it's so weird. The
Mhm.
whole thing is weird. I think everybody's trying to figure out how it really works. But it really is just crazy.
So what was your first character part, like first name character part then in anime?
Mochizuki in Kuroko no Basket. Yeah. He was in season 3 of Kuroko no Basket. I mean, he had like, what, maybe 8 or 9 lines, but hey, they were all sick. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was my first named character, I want to say. In anime, that is. I'm trying to remember, like, sometimes I have to think like, did I record that before this or that? And did this come out after that, even though I recorded it after? I'm trying to like sort it in my head what I've done and what's come out. But yeah, I think Mochizuki was the first one.
Okay. And did you take to dubbing easier, or was it difficult at first?
Oh no, oh my gosh. Well, it's never easy, It's always difficult, and it's especially right now with like remote recording and stuff, like, oh my God. The way it works is sometimes it's over like Source Connect or IPDTL, sound wise, and video wise, they'll use something like Zoom or Skype or even Discord,
Mhm.
Um, but the problem is with like latency and stuff, oh my God. It's hard enough trying to match the lip flaps, but with latency, it can rubber band really fast. Their lip flaps will go like, and then you'll just miss the whole thing sometimes, or it'll look right on the engineer's end and it'll look wrong on your end. It's very challenging right now, but I think I took to it pretty well. It was something I'd been, practicing for, some odd 8 years. So
Mhm.
I would hope I took to it a little better. Um, But yeah, I think it's always a little difficult. And it's kind of a scene by scene basis kind of thing. You know, some scenes they'll just have maybe 2 or 3 flaps, or it'll be a continuous flap. But it's the ones where they pause like every other flap, you know, and there's some weird ones, and you can tell the ADR script adapter had some trouble with it. You're like, oh my God. That's the one where it might be a little tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As most of the stuff that, like the stuff in Yu-Gi-Oh! And Fire Emblem, was that all remote for you too?
So actually, funny enough, it's so funny because Fire Emblem was the one thing that wasn't.
Okay.
But I think they actually wanted it to be. It was an option. They kind of let me know, hey, you know, you can do this remote, or you can come in studio and do it. And I live like, you know, maybe 5 or 6 minutes away from the studio, and I've driven by it like every day. So I was like, no, I want to go in. You know, I want to go in and like be a part of it and have that kind of energy there. And I'm so glad I did. It was awesome. It was a little weird because while I was there in person and the sound engineer was, everybody else wasn't. Everybody else was like remote, like this right now.
Yeah.
Like if this was the studio and I drove in there, and then the director was like on Zoom, you know. So that was a little odd, but that was honestly one of the most fun sessions because everyone was so chill and like supportive and just having fun with it. Nobody was grouchy or anything. They were all super cool. Yeah, I missed that a lot. That was so much fun.
Was that a Caitlin directing you on those for Fire Emblem, or was it somebody else?
That was, yeah. No, that was Caitlin. There was a few people actually. It was Caitlin and a few other people. There may have been like 5 or 6 people at once. I think it was the person writing it, the person adapting it, maybe the person in charge of like quality control. There was a few people there, but Caitlin was the main one directing. They all kind of gave their feedback on every take and would vote on which take to use and maybe give ideas and stuff. It was awesome.
And I've recently talked to Marcella Lentz Pope, who is Corin, like female Corin in all of the properties, and he always said that there's always one or two lines during the Heroes sessions that are just really off the wall and funny that people don't ever end up using.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'm sure if I like really thought about it, there'd probably be a few lines that didn't end up in it. But yeah, for the most part, I'm trying to think. There was one line that was weird, but you know what? I think it was like something he actually said in Sacred Stones. What was the line? And it was like a signature line of his. It was like, you know, Namie, I'm the only one that can make you cry, or something like that. And I was like, what a bizarre thing to say. But it kind of makes sense, you know, if you play through Sacred Stones and stuff, how much of a jerk he is.
Yeah.
It does check out with classic calm attitude.
What aspects of him could you personally relate to the most then?
Oh my God, it's horrible because he's such a jerk, you know? He's like the classic asshole. You know, I used to do esports probably 4 or 5 years ago. And that kind of like competitive gamer mindset, you know, where you kind of have that banter with people you play with and that kind of like toxic banter where it's right on the line of like, you know, maybe that I could relate to a little bit, you know. He is kind of a jerk and a little bit of a douche and says some stuff that's pretty, you know, cocky and arrogant. I could relate to that a little bit if I channeled that kind of aspect into it. He also has, you know, he kind of has that genuine heart to him, wanting to protect his sister. Well, I don't have a sister. I can definitely relate to that kind of inclination to have. Yeah, he was a cool character. He was right up my alley. I'm glad I got to voice him. I had, you know, I don't know if you know this, but you actually have no idea who you're voicing up until you're like doing it, until you're there.
Yeah.
When I saw it, I was like, oh, no way, it's him.
Do you play Heroes?
You know what? I wasn't a player before doing Calm, but after I did it, I was like, you know what? I should check this out. I should see what it's all about. I downloaded it and played it for a while. And you know what? The thing is, it's so much fun, but the problem is I'm like the target audience. I'm like so bad about not like just dumping my wallet into one of these games just because it wants me to, like Hearthstone or something. I'm like the target audience for that. So I'm like, I gotta stop this right now. So I put it down up until Calm came out. I picked it back up and I played with him a little bit. It was a blast. Yeah, I love it. I hadn't played any Fire Emblem games before that, except for Sacred Stones. Ironically enough, on the Game Boy Advance, like way back, you know. And after voicing Calm, I went and found there's like a retro video game store next to me, and I was like, oh, I gotta find, you know, one of the original cartridges and play through it and stuff now that I know. And so I did that, and it was so much fun. Yeah, definitely one of the better games on the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah. So what's the story of getting involved with Yu-Gi-Oh then?
Oh my God. Okay, so that was like years in the making. When I was in New York, I want to say 2019. Yeah, 2019. My friend and I, who was in my acting class with me, I was like, dude, the director for Yu-Gi-Oh, Darren Dunstan, does these workshops at I think it was at Actors Access Building, maybe, or something like that. Actors Connection. It's the Actors Connection building. I was like, he does these workshops. We have to go, man. It'd be so cool. And he was like, yeah. And, you know, if you kind of pay attention to Yu-Gi-Oh's TV cycle, I was like, oh, the new one has to be coming out soon enough. This is like the perfect time to do it. And Darren's pretty upfront, you know, when you take his workshops, he's like, this is how I find new talent and stuff. And if you do a good job and I like your stuff, I'll definitely send you auditions, you know, which is refreshing. A lot of workshops don't do that. I'm trying to think who I even voiced for him in that first workshop. I can't even remember. It was so long ago. Oh my God. One of them was like this big biker dude from maybe Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. Yeah, he was this big biker guy. Okay. And you kind of hear my voice, right? I don't sound like a big biker guy.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was like, what? I was like, what is he seeing? And I was like, all right. And then I took his workshop again, maybe a few months later, and he gave me this this like ant warrior guy, this like big burly ant warrior from some show, from like Chaotix or something, you know? And I was like, what is he hearing that I'm not? I was like, I definitely don't sound like these people. I'm like, I can think of 30 different actors off the top of my head who would fit this, and I'm not one of them. Some years went by, the pandemic hit. And I kind of didn't hear anything. And then around 2020, I guess it was, or no, 2021. Yeah, they started casting for all this kind of stuff and reached out to me for some of the roles, you know, for like Yuga and Gavin and Luke, some of the main characters of, Yugioh Rush Duels and stuff. And nothing really came of it. Then they reached out to me about Yugioh, you know, this big, literally big biker dude. And I'm like, God damn it. I'm like, I don't sound like this. I'm like, there's no way. Why is he even sending me this? And of course, that's the one that I booked, you know. I'm like, well, that just makes sense. You know, once you do voiceover long enough, you start realizing the stuff you know you're not going to get, you end up getting. And the stuff you want the most, you're never going to get. That's just how it is. Yeah. At least that's been my personal experience. But yeah, oh my God. Yu-Gi-Oh has been amazing. Doing Rush Duels and Duel Links and stuff are like childhood dreams come true. One of those things where after I did it, I was like, yeah, I could probably die happy now that I've done that. You know, I've probably like done my younger self some good who would watch Yu-Gi-Oh GX and Duel Monsters with the dual disc on my hand. You know, did you ever have that dual disc, the one that like could literally behead somebody? It snapped so fast. Oh my God. Those things were an absolute hazard. Yeah, that's the Yu-Gi-Oh story. It's been incredible. Yeah. Yu-Gi-Oh is definitely probably the most fun I've had. Okay. Voiceover, period.
Are you the kind of person like, do you not mind listening to yourself in media?
You know, sometimes it's kind of like a case-by-case thing. When I'm doing auditions and stuff, typically I can. But if I'm doing a role where it's like sometimes I get flipped on my head really fast where I'll have one idea of how I'm going to do it. And if they go, oh, no, we actually want it like 10 times higher pitched and maybe like with a little rasp on it or something and like a stutter. You know, if it throws me for a big loop, and even if I do a good job of it, I might be like, oh my God, I totally fucked that up, you know, just because it didn't go the way that I wanted it to, that I might actually just avoid listening to it entirely. There's been very rare cases where that happens, but it happens. But for the most part, I can tolerate listening to myself. You know, a lot of the times it's like, maybe I'm doing an audition for something and I'm like, oh man, this is totally it. This has got to be what they want. This is it. It sounds so right. And then, you know, a few months go by, the cast list comes out, the show comes out, and I'll be like, oh, let me just kind of browse through and listen to a few seconds of it to see what they were actually looking for. And I hear it, and then I'm like, oh my God, I was so far off of what they wanted. Now I'm kind of cringing at myself. Like now I don't want to hear myself do that again. So yeah, to answer your question, you know, in a long way, that's the answer. But yeah, I can tolerate myself for the most part.
Right. And I don't know if you've had the situation yet, but one of my signature questions is always asking, what is the darkest headspace you've had to go for voiceover?
Oh, okay. There's like 2 avenues of that. So okay. Do you mean like in terms of for a character or in terms of just what the voiceover has done to me as a human being?
Oh, well, for the character. Well, I guess both. Yeah.
Both?
Yeah.
Oh God, dude, you might have opened a can of worms. Oh shit. Let's see, headspace wise. Oh man, you know, there's one thing I would say, it's not out yet, so I can't talk about it, but there is one character that was kind of dark headspace wise in terms of just being edgy, and he was like a hyper edgelord, which required getting kind of dark, but not in a way where it's actually, I don't think, you know, maybe not like a depressing kind of dark, maybe an edgy dark. I did an audio drama that I wrote and directed and voiced in a few years back now. That was That Night on Venom. It was like a Star Fox kind of thing. Voicing Wolf and Vlad were 2 characters in it that were pretty dark headspaces. That's, you know, and I'm stretching here. Yeah, I wish I had a better answer for you, but I really haven't voiced that many dark mindset characters yet.
Well, that's fine.
There's that one, but he was just kind of edgy. Yeah, I don't think edgy counts.
What about the other side of the question, like where it impacted you?
Oh my God. Oh man. Yeah, you know, the darkest mindset has definitely been myself. That's probably the darkest mindset of character I've played. You know, when you're auditioning for stuff and everything hits at once, you know, and you're voicing like 5, 6 characters at once, and your weeks are stacked out the wazoo with voiceover sessions, and you're like, oh man, I made it. This is like what it means to be a part of it, you know? And then nothing, you know? And then it can just turn to a desert instantly for like months on end, sometimes years, you know? I mean, I've had dry streaks of like 7, 8 months at a time. And during that time, you're just like, what happened? You know, like, did I just get bad, or am I just not auditioning for the right characters or whatever? And oh my God, if you know, if you're on Twitter or anything or social media, it's just everybody announcing their roles. I was in this. I did this. Oh, this client thought I was amazing. Like this giant circle jerk. And you're like, oh, wow. Ha ha ha. Oh, I didn't get that. Oh, I didn't audition for that. Yeah, it can be a lot. So I've had to definitely purge myself of like all social media just to try and stay in like a level-headed space. But yeah, it can get pretty dark sometimes, man. I mean, voiceover is no joke. It's tough to break into, especially now where like anybody can do it. So you're no longer competing against certain little groups. Like for Funimation, you would have been competing against the Texas kind of voiceover niche.
Yeah.
And for Bang Zoom, you would have been competing against like the LA voiceover group. Now it's just like anywhere, blah, you know, you're competing against some guy in Guam, and you might lose out to some dude in Ohio recording from his Etch-a-Sketch, you know? It's like, damn, dude, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, it can get pretty rough. It can get pretty dark.
Do you have a preference for doing scripted adaptation now, or do you still like voiceover more?
Oh my God, if I could choose, you know, I would do voiceover every time, but script adaptations, you know, it's what pays the bills.
Yeah.
It's what keeps you, you know, consistent work. And if you're good at it, you keep doing it. And I really enjoy it now. It's kind of like a long, you know, crossword puzzle, so to speak. Every scene's kind of like a little puzzle to solve and figure out how to make it work and fit and flow conversationally so it doesn't sound jagged and broken up. I love doing it, but, you know, I think anybody could tell you I'd definitely rather be doing voiceover work in place of it. But, you know, it pays the bills. I get to work on projects that I love that I probably would have never gotten to work on otherwise. So I'm very thankful for it. But yeah, no, I love doing it, but I would much rather be doing voiceover.
And so when you did start doing that for Demon Slayer, how did that come about? Were you asked?
Yeah, Demon Slayer came about right after I finished Eden Zero and another project I can't talk about yet. But yeah, well, the person who wrote the second half of season 1 was Lucian.
Yeah.
And they went to Lucian first, I believe, for season 2. And he had his hands full with a bunch of other projects and stuff. So they kind of ran it by me. I got caught up with everything. I went to a few meetings with them to talk about it. Got to know the people over at Aniplex, the clients and stuff, and like their preferences and stuff. And then we dove into it. Yeah, we started probably last year around like October, November. And I only just finished up like 2 weeks ago. And it was nonstop, man. It was absolutely nonstop. Because that was for the Mugen Train arc as well, kind of the recap series and Entertainment District stuff. And Demon Slayer is no small show, so the client's very, very strict and, you know, particular, as they should be, about what's get put into it, you know, and the translations and how much we adhere to them, and, you know, how much we jeopardize them to make things flow conversationally to a Western audience and not sound like broken Japanese. Yeah, that's how it came about, and I think it went really well. And so far, the reception's been incredible. I'm kind of blown away. Typically, sometimes like for Eden Zero, I would sit in on the sessions to kind of get an idea of how the script's working and like how each actor is kind of tackling it or what they want to say instead of what's being said. But with Demon Slayer, I was honestly just so busy with it, I didn't have time to even sit in on any sessions.
Okay.
So your guess is as good as mine. I have little to no idea. I know they announced Gyotaro this morning, though.
Yeah.
I know that was a big one people were wondering about, but yeah, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine, man.
Okay. It'll be cool to see who Doma is too.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah. Yep. It will be interesting to see for sure.
And I do think it's cool, just kind of touching on what you said already, that I think Emmy Lowe is one of the first voice actors that's still based in Texas to have a major part in Demon Slayer.
And it's so funny because I was just talking to someone and they were like, oh no, they wouldn't use one of the people, you know, who does Funimation in Texas and you know, a Bang Zoom production and a character this big. They wouldn't do that. I'm like, dude, and there you go. I mean, literally anything can happen at this point. You know, you can book a role from anywhere. There's really no limitations at this point. So, yeah.
And are you also in SAG or not yet?
Am I in SAG? Oh yeah, I'm in SAG. I got into SAG from an Applebee's commercial I actually did, and back in like 2018, I want to say, okay. In New York. Yeah, that got me in somehow.
And you said at the beginning that you were moving back to New Orleans soon. What prompted that?
Yeah, I'm moving back, and you know, it's just quite literally what we're talking about. You know, you can literally book anything from anywhere and record from anywhere at this point. And there hasn't been really any telltale sign of that changing anytime soon, besides a few select studios that are opting to do stuff in person. And LA is a great city, but it's just not for me compared to New Orleans. And if I'm gonna be doing, the majority of script adapting work and not as much voiceover work, and especially not in person voiceover work, I at least want to be somewhere where, I can be in a good headspace all the time. So, and that's where my family is. So being close to family, you don't really get the opportunity to do that too much. So I thought it would be a good thing to go back home, be close to family, be in a good headspace, and be able to do everything I'm doing up here,
So is there anything else that's upcoming that you're part of that you can safely talk about? Or
dude, there's some stuff I want to talk about so badly that's like, there's one thing where I'm like, can I talk about this? It's been announced, but I don't know. I haven't been given the green light yet, so. But yeah, just a few things really. That I'm so excited to talk about one of them, but it's got to be soon. It's got to be soon. There's another one where I'm like, is this ever coming out? It's been a while. But yeah, there's a few cool things. I wish there were more with Fire Emblem. I'll tell you straight up, there's nothing coming Fire Emblem wise.
Okay.
I've had a few people ask me if there's any other characters I did in the same kind of session. There were not. I auditioned for a bunch at that time, but Calm was the only one I recorded at the time.
Okay. I know, of course, that your career is still going, but my final question is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
What do I want my legacy to be? Oh man, I don't know. What do I want my legacy to be? Shit. There was a time probably last year where I definitely wanted it to be kind of like breaking a wall down between what happens with voiceover and stuff and what the fans know and stuff. I kind of wanted to break that down and just kind of like bridge the two together. I definitely wanted to take into account what fans wanted in the shows and kind of put them into it. Like with Eden Zero, I definitely was very involved. I was lurking, so to speak, in the communities to see what the fans were hoping for the dub and wanted to make it the best product possible for both new watchers and manga readers alike. But man, when fans care about something, they definitely let you know. I've had I got a lot of hate from the Eden Zero script adapting thing. I also got a lot of support stuff, but the hate, you definitely remember it. So that kind of made me back off a little bit and be like, you know what, maybe I will just, do my best in the work and then back off and let people say what they want to say and just not look for it, because sometimes it can be pretty intense. So yeah, I don't know what I want my legacy to be. I would hope it's, do a good job on my work and hopefully be supportive of the people around me. I definitely want to help people who are trying to get into voiceover do it. That's always been something I wanted to do. And I hope I can leave that legacy behind eventually when I have the respects and credits to my name to garner even people asking me for help. But right now, it really seems like anybody can do it. Like I was saying earlier, you can record it from the basement of a restaurant or literally your closet like I'm doing right now. I don't know. I just hope my legacy is a good one, I guess. I hope it's a positive impact.
Is there something that you want people to take away from your performances so far?
I do. With every performance I've done so far, I truly gave my all. Like, I want people to know if there was like a meter of how much effort I put into it, it's off the meter. Especially with Good Yash from Yugioh. I definitely didn't cut any corners, that I truly gave it my all. I gave all my vocal cords. Yeah, I gave my all. And whenever you hear me in, it's my everything. And so when my everything's not enough, it definitely shatters me. But I'm definitely giving my everything with every role I get the chance to play. That's for sure. And sometimes you're just like, oh, just give me a chance, Like some roles you audition for and you're just like crossing your fingers, like, I know I could give it my everything, but everybody's probably thinking the same thing, you know? So it's always in good hands. It is what it is, you know? That's the business.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Dude, oh my God. Thank you so much for giving me the time of day. Yeah, for real. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah, no problem. I'll have a good rest of your day then.
Of course, man. Man, you too.
Okay. See ya.
All right, later, man.